Good morning. This is a presentation on wolf reintroduction and the importance of the ecosystem in the United States. I have some handouts for the people here as my audience relating to the deer populations in the greater upstate New York and regions. You see the park behind me, Reintroduction Park. Many parks like this have known for high populations of deer that eat the vegetation and have no countermeasures to be taken care of. I feel that wolf reintroduction in the United States is a very important topic to be discussed in many regions that have severe overpopulation of deer. This is where more of the state and federal funding should be employed to help tell people and inform them in the facts of how this would affect their populations in more effective ways other than bait and shoot and basic hunting in areas that could cause population increases and also hurt people that may be in the area. Because many deer and game populations have gone out of control as hunting food is no longer required for a source of food for most Americans this time of age. With understanding of such things, let's look at how wolves were eliminated from the United States in the first place in most regions. They're only known to be wild populations in Wyoming from the reintroductions done here recently. And other areas like Minnesota, they've come down from Canada and some parts of Wisconsin. Once before the American colonies were in, wolves populations were pretty much throughout the lower 48 states. They were everywhere to be found. The populations were very well induced. They did not kill off the deer or the hunt. They worked in harmony as the ecosystem worked its way. One population became stronger than the other would balance itself out as food becomes scarce for the other. But as the wolf populations have dwindled, the deer populations have excessively become extremely overpopulated in certain areas. As you did in this handout you can see that today there is over 20 million deer in the United States, and the number is rising. The average rate is some spots is 40 deer per square mile in some rural areas, up to 100 near metro areas, which cause havoc on people's flower systems and other natural livestock economics. The situation becomes a problem as poor plant life is eaten to shreds. The average population change comes up an average of 2.5 times per every 2 to 3 years, which doubling would pretty much we could have in the next couple of years up to 40 million, 60 million, 80 million if nothing's taken care of the situation. Well, hunters killed wolves to make sure they had deer. Well, that situation is no longer use. The situation is no longer needed for deer food. But the thing is, the natural supplement to take care of the deer populations now, as hunters no longer hunting it, are now been eliminated. As they're pretty much extinct in every state except for those 3. Now, wolf aggression is not as known as most people think. They're mainly a pretty passive animal. As in most populations have been studied, that wolves normally have a tendency to be scared off by humans. They don't really care to be around them. They're very timid. As in many situations listed by in David Meach's book, the statement was that you can walk into a wolf den and take pups, and the most you'll get is a couple barks and howls out of them rather than being attacked. From my own personal experiences, I have seen wolves in the wild in Minnesota when I went there many years ago. In those circumstances, I did not feel a threat at all. One just looked at me and kind of wandered off. Another kind of followed, and I turned around and skittered off into the woods. I talked to one hunter who was complaining about the wolf population there. Basically, well, it's affecting his hunting deer counts. And during a study for 23 years, they have shown that wolf populations do not affect hunting deer populations at all. The numbers have stayed stable throughout. So this was more of a myth than an actual fact. And again, they said basically, well, wolves will attack. Well, that same person I talked to basically said, well, we had a wolf growling. Well, I asked him, what was he doing? Well, it was like, I was cutting off an antler, and antlers off a deer I found to kill. And it was like, what do you think killed it? It was like, well, the wolves did, but they didn't need the antlers. It was a fresh kill. They were only defending their kill, and they didn't even attack him. They just warned him to move away. And he was able to get the antlers and leave without harm. This proves right here that wolf populations do not affect or harm humans. And most, maybe at best, would have an effect of maybe occasional cat that may kill maybe a dog. But then again, bait and shoot. Is that any more moral? Is that any more effect? I would say not. I mean, you have someone shooting, park at night. Well, kids have a tendency to go up parks at night. What happens if the deer moves, the shot goes off, and hits something? I'd rather have a timid animal to a point that could have only minor aggressions that are probably less aggressive than bears and raccoons out in the wild taking care of the deer populations than more of a situation of a hunter with a rifle or a bait and shoot idea. I would say that would be more of an occasional situation that would be more effective. Now, we take into consideration that deer populations, even in certain areas where wolves were eliminated early on, back in Ohio in the early turn of the century, the population was about 4,000 when they eliminated all predators in the area. Within a few years, the population shot up over 100,000. Now, taking into consideration about that, that's basically another multiplication-wise. It's like if you have a house of 4 people and another 21 moved into the same house. How would they get a little bit overpopulated and they ate themselves out of house and home within a couple of years? The population was 10,000. Not from hunting, from starvation. And the same situation happens in many areas where populations are have overgrown beyond its natural resource of food, as the natural predator has been eliminated. Now, we take into consideration that wolves are aggressive and people think it's the truth. Well, it's not the myth. It is the truth. As people have considered, as one person has stated, there's only one species on this planet that intentionally eradicates this other species, and that species is Homo sapiens, humans. Wolves aren't trying to eradicate their prey species, nor is it even likely they could. They simply don't have the tools alone the inclination to do so. Now, other wolf populations have been created in Wyoming and such in Yellowstone. They have gone over pretty well, except for a few very minor situations. And mostly those have been situations with the livestock being killed once in a great while. But other areas have listed that the population have increased the actual population's increased, but the actual plants have actually flourished. When the population of the deer and the elk have been cut down and are killing off countless species of the actual plants that have actually been almost driven into the ground dirt and eaten everything. Stating from one person's thing, Brian O'Neill, Reintroduction in Yellowstone has been the most popular and most environmentally justified endangered species introduction ever. Opposition to wolves in Yellowstone has been extremely mean-spirited. However, once the appeal court has viewed the law and the reduction effort, we are confident that we will be permitted the wolves to stay. They are a capstone of the Yellowstone ecosystem. Well, it's very important that the ecosystem is being actually back into balance. And I feel that the government should actually be more willing to help fund and teach people about the positives of having wolves in the area. As it is, it also helps businesses and tourism. Think about how much tourism Yellowstone has actually gained since the wolves were reintroduced. It has helped many businesses and people coming to see them in the wild. And as it is, you look around here, there's coyotes. They have taken over. In some places, they're overpopulated because they're the only actual predator to a point of deer, and it's not really, they can really even take that one very well. more funding, we can return the wolf to its natural habitat and restore the balance that was once destroyed by humans. As we ourselves have tried to hunt, and that situation is no longer required, we should return the balance that was once taken away by us. As we have caused the situation, we should be the one to restore it. You look at how the rainforest is depleted and everything else, we are the ones destroying it, and we don't take much consideration at times. We should be more than willing to put forth an effort to educate people on the mistakes that we've made and try to correct them before it's too late. Now, if people have more information, they can go upon their local governments and make their own decision if they want to have wolf reintroduction in their area. Now, without that information, they're falling on lies and myths, and nothing will ever be done. Now, with more funding, the facts can be given out to areas that have heavy deer populations, and they can make the choices for themselves, not having basically myths and lies being the factor of what they want to do. Now, in reality, I would say it's probably the best thing that reintroduce. But it's up to everyone else, yourselves, to make that decision. As with everything else, we ourselves make the decision, not someone else make it for us. But it's best to make the decision when you actually have the facts, not just some myths and lies that were brought up to cut the population down in the first place of the hunters and have their show what they're gaining basically fur trades. Now, if anybody in the audience here would have any questions, I'm more willing to answer.
Yes, I have one question. With the 3 states with the reintroduction of wolves, you stated it was Wyoming, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Has farmers or any of the residents of those states had any problems with wolf attacks on their livestock or personal home animals?
You will see from time to time Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Wyoming, a pet once in a while that strayed off, possibly during winter time. It's very uncommon. I mean, once in a while, maybe a wolf being mate with a dog. I mean, in the case scenario of one of the researches that were done many years ago, they saw a wolf in the wild, and they saw 2 dogs fighting. The wolf actually went after the aggressor to break up the fight because it seemed very agitated by the conflict that was happening. They don't tend to go after them, and I would say for the most part, they usually very rarely. But then again, think about other animals attacking other animals. Cat fights, dog fights, raccoon attacks, and in certain areas bear attacks on pets. There's more documented bear attacks than wolf attacks on humans and no. There's been a couple of livestock attacks in Wisconsin, over in Wyoming during the Yellowstone, which led to wolf number 9's killing. Without regulation, they just basically shot at without full cause, which that person was prosecuted because the animal is considered endangered, and the female of the pack, of that 2-pack group, actually was impregnated at the time and had pups that had to be taken to an encagement area to be staged for later release because they would have starved to death because one wolf is not going to be able to take down enough game to feed the pups. But overall, the counts are minimal to normal death counts to any other wild animal. I mean, you have rattlesnakes in certain areas and all kinds of other predators out there that don't attack game like deer and such. But they're more willing to get the bad area to attack a human, so I would say the minimal cost is, say, minimal. I mean, in reality, think about getting deer tagged. I mean, sick deer that run around. Wolves have a tendency to go after the weakest animals first and they're the easiest to hunt. And in certain areas, that would basically strengthen a deer population for better hunting. So, if you're, mainly the fact is, if your livestock is pretty healthy, more than likely it's probably not going to get attacked because usually a pack will determine the casualty event of how much it would take unless the animals are sick, which very rarely happen per se.